Well, what have we seen? We've seen another exhilarating game of Test match cricket, and that means the Ashes is still well and truly alive, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Avni Shaidya. What's in the slip cordon? And before I get to Anirudh and Nakash, just take a moment of appreciating Test cricket. All you T20 fanatics out there, this is why we love the longest format of the game. This is why we love red ball cricket, white colored clothing, whatever you want to call it. Test match is the best, honestly. That's just me having my little rant. But let's move on to this edition of the Slip Cordon. Now we're going to be reviewing day three, the third test at Leeds. I was really going to say day 4 because look, there's lots is happening in this Headingley test. And I'm Avni Shaikli, like I said, and I have, of course, Anirudh Suresh and Akash Sivasubramaniam, who, of course, cover the test. Both of them are secret Aussie fans, just to give you more context. I know all you guys know that, but for the people who don't know, just want to give you guys a brief introduction. Anirudh, you were swearing at the TV, abusing the TV, nearly being upset on the TV, but England have won by 3 wickets. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think it's a fair result in the end. I just feel that, like Lords, how Australia were ahead of England all the time, except for a few moments. I think similarly in this test, England were ahead of Australia for most part. Although that being said, I think Australia will be absolutely kicking themselves because there were 2 moments when they could have taken control of the test, which was when they had like a 120 run lead with the English tail to bowl to, and when the sun was out on the very same day, just a couple of hours later, and when Labuschagne and Khawaja were batting. So to have thrown away the advantage after that, Australia would be absolutely kicking themselves. But that being said, Australia probably won a test which they should have lost, which was Edgbaston. So I think that kind of evens things out. So look, no complaints. I think England played better cricket overall, even though they were a bit dodgy with their catching as usual, as has been the case for 3 tests now. But fair play, Wokes, Wood and Moeen, all 3 guys who came into the 11, they performed brilliantly. So I have no complaints whatsoever. I think it's England completely deserved to win this test. But I'll just say that once again they won the toss, so there's just too much fortune going England's way. So it's high time they won the toss, despite that they've been, not doing that. But fair play. I think it's a fair result.
Akash, you echo those thoughts?
Yeah, 100% I echo those thoughts. But only one thing. I saw your introduction. I just have one thing to say. It could be the absolute beauty of Test cricket, but it was a T20-esque innings from Mark Wood in the first and the second, which changed the game. So, including Ben Stokes, right? It was a T20-esque inning. So, you can't take T20 out of anything. So, even in the best format of the game, T20 still rules, right? So, that's just what I have to say.
Still rules. It's funny because I think the third result, which is the draw, has been taken out of the equation. Essentially, I don't think we're going to get a draw every time England plays. I think unless there's rain or unless there's some real tragic desert storms they're playing in the UAE, then maybe, but it's a joke.
We had one full day almost get washed out, and we were done before the second session got completed on day 4. So just giving you the real picture of how fast-paced this test series has been. And not just England, Australia batted at close to 4-5 and over in the first innings, this test match. So look,
which is what I loved, actually. We'll talk about Mitch Marsh, we'll talk about the turning point and all of that in the next segment. The first segment, I should really say, of the Ashes Slip Cordon, which is, of course, the verdict. Right, in the verdict, we asked these 2 boys about, of course, some pertinent questions revolving the test match. And we'll start off with Anirudh, because I want to ask him about his beloved Mitchell Marsh. I know it was Shub who wrote the analysis piece after his 118, a runnable 118, I should mention. But what is it with Mitch Marsh, the test cricketer? There was a lot of bites used from previous press conferences saying I'm the most hated Australian cricketer to be the most loved. Is he still an understudy in your eyes to Cameron Green? How do they kind of shoehorn him in going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this makes him an automatic starter by any means. He still has a lot to prove in Test cricket, but I won't be surprised if he gets the next match at least, whether it's whether it's in place of Green, or they drop someone like a Warner, or if they fit him in instead of an extra bowler. I don't know how that will work out, but I do expect Mitchell Marsh to get one more match at least in the series. The whole change of coaching setup, the way the players have been given freedom, and you've seen the stereotype about how Test cricket should be played being broken in the last 24 months or so, right? Not just by England, but also by someone like a Travis Head, who's been playing at his own pace, own style, and everything in the last 18 months or so. I think all these things have together given Mitchell Marsh the confidence to go and play his own game. He doesn't have to prove people that he can play red ball cricket. He's just doing the same thing. Whereas, like, if the ball is there to be hit, I'll hit it. So I think that being himself, being able to be himself as a batter, right? I think that's gone a long way in helping Mitchell Marsh play the innings he played on day one. And I think he also played a very good knock in the second innings. Unfortunately, he got one which bounced extra off a length of Chris Wokes, and nobody could have done anything. True, he has his weaknesses still. As you saw, he was put down when he was on 12, I think, on the first innings. And if that catch was taken, we would be having a completely different conversation. We would be talking like, oh, this is why Mitchell Marsh never plays Test cricket, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, everyone has moments of fortune which shape their career. Every athlete, every person has an amount of luck which shapes their career or path or whatever. And I think Mitchell Marsh deserved it for the amount of effort he's put into his cricket over the last few years. But yeah, I think the single biggest factor, like I said, is having the belief, that having the confidence, having the clarity that, okay, if the ball is there to be hit, I'll hit it, because I'm not going to be criticized even if the ball I get caught in the deep mid wicket from the first ball, because he said in the press conference that Cummins told him just before the match that if you want to hit the first ball for six, do it. So that's the kind of clarity in thought that has helped Mitchell Marsh succeed, I think, in this particular Test match.
Yeah, and talk about baseball, but you talk about how Australia adopted that approach, and they were in a tricky position, remember, Australia, but it was Marsh's innings and, of course, a little bit of head support, no puns there, which, of course, gave Australia a little bit defend in the first innings. Akash, I want to ask you about the turning point of the Test. I mean, lots goes back to that Mitch Marsh's 118, and he takes Australia out of a spot of bother. But did you see any other massive ebbs and flows in the game which ultimately decided to England's favour?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about head, right? I just want to point out a headless moment, and that comes from Marnus Labuschagne. See, imagine, right? Imagine that session, right? After what England did, Australia had the opportunity to be just what, 1 or 2 down by the end of the day, and that could have really forced a different situation for England. See, they're anyway chasing the game, and if you had put more pressure on them, they would have definitely bowled the odd bad deliveries that could have been converted for boundaries. But Marnus Labuschagne, out of all people, he's done this twice. Even in the home Ashes, I remember Jack Leach bowled a similar delivery, and he tried to hit it straight. I mean, for a six, but it went straight to the fielder. Same place, same shot, same result. I think he should be ashamed of that. That after getting a start, right, you can't just give away dismissals like that, especially after what you saw from Ben Stokes. And then, if you think that Marnus Labuschagne was probably the most headless guy, then Cayman Smith. How can you even define it? That's like, I mean, that's almost very similar to how he got out against Washington, Sundar, except this was a 1/10 of a delivery, and it was a terrible situation. I mean, he could have just played dodge. Nobody cares about the run rate at that point. But then, yeah, I mean, the most headless of imagine this, right? Out of all people playing in this Test match, we're talking about Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith as the headless people. So this is just poor shot selection coming from a guy who scored 100. So I think that's where the match turned. And to not, I mean, see, Australia kind of went with the same motto, right? In the first innings, towards the back end of England's innings, that bowl shot and get them out, which didn't work out. So probably they'll have to assess when to bowl short and when to bowl fuller. That's that kind of balance that they if they bring in the next game, probably you would get an Australian result.
Let's see how it all trickles forward, and that leads me to my next question to Anirudh with regards to what happens next. It's 2-1. plenty to play for. We moved to Manchester. There's a little bit of a break, and of course, the final test at the Oval. Is there a hope if you're an England fan, or Australian fans are pretty confident? Because even this victory that England had, let's make no mistake, Australia made England really play out of their skin to get across the line. It wasn't almost like a convincing win, right? So, can you see a 2-2 potentially at Old Trafford? I know you wouldn't like the result, Anirudh, but what happens from now, according to you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because if you look at the way the series has been going, it could easily have been 3-0 England by now. It could also have been 3-0 Australia, but the margins have been so tight that it could have been either side could be ahead right now by 3-0. So there is every reason for England to believe that they can bounce back, they can uh, beat this Australian team again, because 9-day break between tests, Mark Wood will be recharged, fully fit. I think that also gives a break for Stuart Broad, who, if it was another test back to back, then I think he would not have played the next test because of the short turnaround. But 9 days is a lot. I think he'll play now. Yeah, we'll have to see how England kind of set their team up. But momentum, they'll have the momentum for sure, and all the pressure will be on Australia, because you look, if it becomes 2-2, then we'll start talking about bottling the ashes, right? So then when one team is ahead 2-0 and you make it 2-2, then all the pressure will be on Australia after that. So it's a very good position for England to be in right now in terms of mental state. I'm not saying that 1-2 down is a good position to be in. It's, you much rather be 2-1 up for sure. But considering all the drama that's gone off the field, the crowd support, and all these other factors, when you take it into account, I think England must be absolutely fired up. And but just coming to that, I think Australia will be glad that there's a 9-day break, because it gives a small break to step back, to just kind of let it cool down, right? It's been super hot for the last 1 month, like non-stop. Since the WTC final, none of these guys have had a break. It's been non-stop. So maybe this will also do good for Australia. But yeah, we're going to get an absolute cracker of a test match, no doubt, at Old Trafford.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. Akash, just finish up this verdict segment by telling me about what you envisage in Manchester. Obviously, there'll be chopping and changing. We've seen people play one test and sit out. Players like Josh Tongue. Maybe Australia, would they go back to, of course, Cam Green, or would they persist with Mitch Marsh? In terms of changes, can you second guess and tell me what's going to happen then?
Yeah, I mean, see, traditionally, I think Manchester has been one of the most Asian-like conditions in England, because there has been, the wickets have tended to slow down and aid spin, and you've seen multiple instances of that. So, going by that pattern, I think both teams will still have one spinner. The only issue is, do England play James Anderson? Because it is his home. Second, he knows how the conditions are. And third is, even if he plays, right, who do you replace? Ideally, maybe say you can replace with an Ollie Robinson, and then the team would be like Vokes, Anderson, and Wood. But again, Vokes and Anderson pretty much similar kind of players. So it's going to be a tricky balance for England. But I think for Australia, it's pretty certain, if Cameron Green is fit, he is definitely going to play. And the only other change, I think, after this match is, I think Hazelwood will return, because somewhere down the line, right, Hazelwood's experience of playing T20 cricket has sort of enabled him to be smart. You saw that in the second test at Lords, right? Even when Ben Stokes was taking the attack to him, he kind of changed his attack. He tried bowling Yorkers. He tried bowling something different, which Scott Boland didn't do in this test. So maybe that's an impression, saying that maybe experience is what Australia lacked in this test. Say if Lyon was fit, it could have easily been 3-0, because Lyon's experience is huge. You would bowl him even if there is a matchup. He's that kind of a bowler. So maybe these are the changes that I'm envisioning. And also another aspect, right? I just want to clear up before the segment that we have, that no team in the Ashes in the last 43 years, right, have overturned a 2-0 deficit. And it kind of only reminds me of that Neymar quote, that is that 1% chance and 99% faith. So that's what England are going with. Australia are saying that it's still in our backyard.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. There's always football analogies when Anirudh, Akash, and me are around. So if you guys know, you know. Let's move on to that number segment where we always digest data in a different style in this segment called Stat-Tat-Tat. Right, in Stat-Tat-Tat, we basically ask Akash and Anirudh to kind of hit each other with stats, of course, pertaining to the lead test that we just saw. So, Akash, this time you start proceedings. What can you really throw us with?
Thanks, Amnish. You cleared it with stat. Otherwise, I would have thought we are having a go at each other. But yeah, I mean, the first stat, I'll start with Stark because we talked about him. So Stark's dismissal to Duckett was the first time Duckett has been dismissed to any delivery that was bowled on the stumps. So imagine this, right? This is the first time he's ever got out in a way that is his first time he's got out basically by a bowler who's bowling at stumps. So I think
No
that's a very
ways. Are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah. That's
Okay,
very
Anirudh,
weird, but
can
interesting
you
one.
top that? Because surely, I know we spoke about the Duckett leave percentage, but that one blew my mind. Do you have some? Surely you do.
Yeah, I mean I do, but I don't know if I can top it in terms of the ridiculousness. But there's a very nerdy stat I have coming up, which is so we know Bastow keeps wickets, but his average as a specialist wicketkeeper batsman before he keeps, which is if he bats in the first innings of a test match, that is 52.70. If he bats in the second, third, and fourth innings of test matches, which is after he's kept once, it drops down to 28.01. So basically, if you have Johnny Bastow in your team as the wicketkeeper batsman, you better hope that you're batting first as a team because otherwise you're not getting any value of him as a batter.
Oh my word, these boys can really pick stats when I ask them to. Okay, Akash, another one from you, and then one more from Ani, and we'll wrap.
So we also saw Mark Wood's excellent innings in the first innings. So Mark Wood's 24 runs in the first 8 balls is the highest score for an Englishman after 8 balls. So I don't think Wood could have had a better head. I don't know. Maybe yeah, but
Who's the second best? Because he played 8 balls in the second innings also, and he got 16. So is he one and two?
no, I don't think he's 1 and 2. Yeah, surely there must be somebody else.
That's insane. I think he's spent a little bit of time with a certain MS Dhoni who was mastering these cameos in the IPL. So, Mark Wood, good to you. Imagine getting a man of the match for 7 wickets and then hitting 40 runs in 16 balls. That's a decent outing, you should say. Anirudh, finally, you stat-tat. Akash, I think, is clearly winning this contest, but can you challenge him with your final stat?
Yeah, I think I can. So Mitchell Marsh now has as many Ashes hundreds as David Warner and more Ashes hundreds than Shane Watson. So clearly Mitchell Marsh is the is the
Good.
greatest attacking batsman to have come out of Australia in the 21st century. No question. Like no one comes close. Bison all the way. And also Mitchell Marsh is an Ashes specialist because he averages 50.5 against England and his average against every other country is 20.75. So he was made in a laboratory just to screw England over. I remember him taking a 5-4 in the World Cup as well in 2015, if I'm not wrong. So he exists to make English lives miserable. So that automatically makes him the most. He deserves a statue just for that, right? Like surely because that's what Australians love for sure, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was really loaded. Just for the comical element, I've just sided with Anirudh. Akash was winning it all the way, but this Mitch Marsh stat has blown me and, of course, a lot of viewers watching this right now. I'll add one, even though it's like a really redundant stat. And apparently, I was going through it, right? Mitch Marsh, and I told you boys this, but we were not recording, where Mitch Marsh became the only player in Australian history to score 182 wickets since 1926, which is ridiculous. I mean, but Australia have never had all-rounders. But we'll leave that segment there. Let's move on to the next segment, which we love, and that's called In Case You Missed It. Yeah, but in case you missed it, we normally show you some clips or tweets of things which has gone by during this test. So just to refresh your minds in case you guys have missed it on social media. Now, first up, this one please Anirudh or Akash. But look, the English fans have been at it all summer long. Same old Aussies was the chant going along, but the plane also has this banner. We've seen it with football at multiple times, Anirudh. I mean, this is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I remember like Glazers out and all that stuff. So yeah, good banter, good banter.
Good banter indeed. Now let's talk about some stuff on the field, and I'll play this video next, which is between Steve Smith and a certain Johnny Bairstow.
Catch! Yes!
Now, obviously, we spoke about how Smith threw his wicket away, but there was a little bit of mind games before and after. If you guys saw the passage of play, I mean, surely Smith has been called worse things, right, in his life. Rishabh Pant comes to mind.
I think he heard it as cheater smudge. I think
Yeah.
I think he misheard it and he heard it as cheers as cheater smudge. So
Yeah.
he was like, "Hey, what the hell, man?" And then
But you can't really put that past Johnny Bairstow because you know how he is. He likes to rile them up.
he's a good lad. But I don't think he'll call any other cricketer a cheater unless it's Mohammad Amir. So
Of course,
I can't
yeah.
believe you
Of
just
course.
throw that in. Okay, and finally, or in case you missed it, it's a clip that actually one of these boys shared to me in the WhatsApp chat earlier this week. And it comes to not cricket, not football, not even tennis. It's this Australian sport.
Right hand facing Rapana. Well, that's a no ball.
Very keen to come down that side twice. This is the Johnny Bairstow run out. He stepped out of his crease and has taken the stumps.
Missed the stumps.
Now, I mean, is it really catching on that fast? I mean, cricket really trending to Aussie rugby and Aussie all of that?
yeah, of course, I tried up Piers Morgan. What more do you want? I mean, that's great. But one more, I want to tell about one more clip, which is there was WWE Money in the Bank last week, and Wade Barrett said on air during commentary that a guy was using a cricket bat, and he said it's about time an Englishman did well with the cricket bat because we were getting whooped in the Ashes just down the road. So that was after the Lord's Test. So yeah, fair play.
Dude,
The
it's
Ashes
crazy how
still-
other sports integrate to take part of these little thematic things in cricket. There was another one, I don't know if you guys saw it on Instagram, where I think it's been done before with other stuff, but where I think a pilot was landing into London and said, "Oh, there's a prestigious Lord's cricket ground, and here's Leeds," and you can see the cheating Aussies and all of that. So lots more on social media. Follow us, by the way, on cricket.com and our handles. I think we're 3 lakh plus on Instagram and going solidly well on Twitter as well. Right, time for
Yeah,
that.
Amnish, did you actually watch Mark Wood's dance?
No, what is that?
We
Like the
should- we should-
sprinkler?
No, that's a pro. I mean, we will probably play it in the next test during the next test. But yeah, you should. All of you should actually watch that dance.
When did he do the dance?
No, this is way back in 2019. I'm assuming 2019 or 2020. But yeah, if you watch that dance, you will probably be scarred or laugh for your whole life. I mean, I don't know, one of the two.
Okay, now definitely we want to put it out. We'll try to put it out for sure. But let's move on to the final segment. And this is where we give you guys back home a chance to win big in terms of our merchandise in the Who Am I quiz. That the Who Am I quiz, it's always one to tickle the pickle, or that's what she said at least. Let's see what we have in terms of the first clue today. And boys, obviously you know the answers, but can you guys assist the viewers a little bit more with your cheeky clues? Who is
Yeah, I
this?
would say Jack Daniels is a very good clue.
Johnny Walker, keep walking.
Jack Daniels, and yeah, I mean, you can also say Ashes. Okay, I mean, Ashes. He's played in the Ashes for sure. I mean, that's another clue.
Yeah, he's played in the Ashes. All these people who we've
yeah.
asked you on the Who Am I quiz have played in the Ashes. In fact, I'll give you a little clue. As you can see, the 3 clues over there. But the one ball that he faced in the IPL was that ball with Ishant Sharma, which kind of cleaned him up. It was a DC KKR game. I'll say nothing more. So that's the first Who Am I clue. So tell us in the comments. And remember, if you guys want to win big in this competition, tell us all 3 of the right answers, and the first person in the comments wins. So that was the first one. The second one is this one, which actually got the boys thinking. They were not getting this for a long time till one of the boys randomly threw a name and then they got it. But I'm sure our knowledge is decent, and the viewers' knowledge is also decent. He made his IPL debut in 2011. That might throw you off, but think about it. And those are your 3 clues for player number 2. Finally, player number 3 then is this man. And he, of course, born in Newcastle, England, completed 10K first-class runs in 2018, and he's played just 11 tests for the Three Lions. Yup, I gave you another clue by saying Three Lions, so he's obviously English. Who is this man? Because at the end of the day, if you guys want to win the merch, tell us in the comments below. So 1, 2, and 3. I think Akash, Anirudh know the answers, but we'll end on a little fun note, guys. We all had our predictions before the Ashes kicked off. You guys famously, infamously said 5-0, 3-2, 2-3, 4-1, all of that. What are we sticking with right now? Because it's 2-1. At least it's not a damn squib heading into Manchester in the Oval. Can we expect more cracker-jackers of tests? Because we've had 3 solid test matches, Anirudh.
Yeah. So I'm going 3-2 in favor of the team that wins the next test match, probably. That's a very safe prediction. Because if England make it 2-all, I really can't see Australia winning the 5th test, because the momentum will be with England, and I think they are the kind of team which, once they get on a roll, right, it's just you can't stop them. But for once, I hope Australia win a toss and England get not so lucky, because they've been extremely lucky for 3 tests in a row. They've had the best overhead conditions, they've had the toss, and they're still just badly winning. So, shame on you, England, for having all the advantage and still not being ahead in the series. But look, I really hope Australia gets some advantage in the next test in terms of the toss or overhead conditions, or if, like England, both. Why not?
No, true, man. I essentially see it with regards to 2 points you said there, and I'll throw 2 back at you. One, with the toss, Pat Cummins, even though he loses tosses, he wins games more often than not. Obviously, Leeds being an exception. The other point is what Akash brought up just a moment ago. No team has turned a 2-0 deficit since 1980 or whatever he said. So I don't know if your 3-2 happens, but if it happens, it happens. Akash, I'm surely thinking you'll disagree, or do you think Aussies will just be like, you know what? Let's give the English a little bit of false hope, bring them to the Oval, and then crucify them there. How about that?
No, that's the last thing Australians would want to do. At this point, they would just take the next test. So my prediction before the series, once the series started, it was always 3-2 for Australia. I don't think it's going to change. Even though if it rains for 2 days, we will see a result in 3 days. That's how the test series has been. And Australia have enough time to think about it. And going into Manchester, they would genuinely want to just clean up the series there. But trust me, England are going to win one more test match in this series, and it'll be 3-2 for Australia.
Okay, let's see how it goes. Remember, the last time Australia won a series in England was in 2001. Can they repeat the heroics 22 years later? We'll bring it all for you on the 4th and the 5th test. You can catch cricket.com and its coverage for the Ashes in terms of live blogs, stats, and social media, like I said. Until the next time where you see all the 3 AAAs of cricket.com, it's a goodbye from Anirudh, Akash, and me. Have a belter of a week ahead. And we apologize, this has been slightly long, but like it, share it, tell a friend, and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching. It's a goodbye from all 3 of us.